Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm sharing some more school and work lunch ideas. Today's video is kindly sponsored by Bento, and I'll be featuring some of their new products, including the new square blossom bento box. This is the first ever square bento box to have graphics on the lid. The steel insulated bottle in copper, which keeps drinks hot or cold for up to 12 hours, as well as the flamingo original bento box, which is one of 4 new colours. Bento have made the original bento box, which is designed and made in France, now even more eco-friendly. The packaging is craft cardboard with vegetal inks and is packed in a small reusable fabric pouch. The lunchboxes themselves have a new uncoated matte finish, which makes them even easier to be recycled when they come to the end of their life, of course. But Bento have retained its high quality PBT material, which allows them to be reused for a very long time. The inner lids also have a new antibacterial seal, which is more hygienic and makes them easier to clean. But despite these eco-friendly changes, the original bento box is still produced in France. Don't forget to check out Bento using the link in the description box below. There's also a discount code there for you to use too. So onto the lunches, and if you follow this as a weekly lunch plan, Monday's lunch, or just idea number 1, is a shredded tofu noodle salad. For this I took a block of tofu which I'd pressed and I cut it in half. I then placed half back in the jar it came in, though you could place this in a container of water and put it back in the fridge for another lunch. I then sliced and shredded up the other half of the block of tofu into different sized pieces. These don't have to be uniform in any way, it can be done super quickly, so you have something that ends up looking a little bit like this. I then heated 2 teaspoons of oil in a frying pan, turned the heat up to a medium high, then I added in the tofu and just fried it off until it began to turn slightly golden in colour. I then seasoned mine. You could leave it plain or use whichever flavourings you like. I used 1 teaspoon of garlic granules, half a teaspoon of dried chilli flakes, and then just seasoned it with some sea salt and some black pepper. Then just fried it off for a few more minutes before then leaving it to cool. Next, I placed a large handful of spinach on a chopping board and I added on a small bunch of fresh mint, which I just removed from the stems. I then added on a small bunch of fresh coriander, then 2 spring onions which I just cut in half, and also 5 radishes halved. Then roughly but carefully I just shredded that up with a knife. Again, I like to have a good mixture of finely chopped pieces but also some chunkier pieces, especially of the spring onion and the radish for some crunch. Once it was all chopped, I then added that into a large mixing bowl, and once the tofu had fully cooled down, I added that into the bowl next. I then squeezed in the juice of half a lime, added in 1 tablespoon of tahini, 1 teaspoon of liquid aminos and 1 teaspoon of sesame oil, and using some tongs I just mixed that all together until it was well combined and the dressings were evenly coating everything. I then placed half of that into an airtight container and I just placed that in the fridge to use for lunch the next day. To the salad in the bowl, I then added in a portion of leftover cooked udon noodles, and then I turned those through the salad again just to get them well coated and everything. If you wanted to at this point, you could add in some more red wine vinegar or liquid aminos. I then boxed this up. I placed a large handful of spinach in the main container just to bulk it out and get in some extra greens. I then added in the noodle salad on top of that. You could add whatever you like into the sauce cup, some extra dressing maybe, but I just added in some sesame seeds as well as some dried chili flakes for some more crunch and a little bit more heat. I then placed that in the box with the half a lime I'd used for the dressing, just cut in half. These had a little more juice in them, but I just find leaving them to sit in the salad also releases even more flavour. Then in the pot from the other container, I added some vanilla soya yogurt, and then in that I put half a fresh passion fruit and then squeezed the other half of the passion fruit all over. You guys know this is one of my favourite combinations. In the spare section, I then put some sweet chilli chickpea popped bites, And then for something else sweet, I put in some of these Peaks crunchy salted caramel chocolate squares. These are basically like shredded wheat cereal covered in salted caramel chocolate. They're amazing. I eat so many noodles, so I often have some left over for lunch the next day, and I love them as a lunch option, as something different to pasta, for example. And obviously so many different combinations work for noodle salads. You could actually use whichever noodles you like for this. I find udon noodles quite meaty, thick and chewy, so I love those, but some medium ribbon noodles, whole wheat noodles, or even rice noodles could work for this. You could also add in extras like avocado, some crushed peanuts for more crunch. There are already so many flavours, from the tahini, liquid aminos and the fresh herbs, and textures from the fried tofu, the crispy spring onions and radishes, and I think it's a fairly quick and simple salad to throw together. And as always, this could be assembled the night before, so you can just grab it and go in the morning. Tuesday's lunch, or the second idea, is a shredded satay tofu chickpea salad wrap. For this, I placed half a can of drained, rinsed chickpeas in a bowl. I then added in the remaining shredded tofu salad from the day before and just mixed everything together until it was well combined. I then made a quick satay sauce using 3 tablespoons of peanut butter, the juice of the other half of the lime left over from the day before, 1 teaspoon of liquid aminos, a teaspoon of sriracha, and a teaspoon of maple syrup. I then just whisked that all together until it was nice and smooth. I then took a whole wheat wrap and spread on the satay sauce. I like making this quite thick so that it doesn't make the wrap too soggy throughout the day, but if you'd like this more saucy, you could thin it out with a little bit of water if you like. I then added the tofu chickpea salad down the centre of the wrap, and I also added on some fresh coriander and a small handful of spinach too. I wrapped that up by folding over the ends and then rolled it as tightly as possible to make sure that it holds together, and then I just sliced it in half. The wrap inside then looked a little something like this. I placed that in one of the bento boxes. I put some spinach in the sides around it, as well as a few coloured cherry tomatoes. I then took the small container from the second bento box and I placed some hummus in that. In one section to the side of that, I put some chilli and lemon hummus chips. And then for something sweet, I took some of these Livia's Million Squares. These are the chocolate orange flavoured ones, made with an oat base, a gooey date centre and a dark chocolate layer on the top. There's 3 mini squares in a packet and these are so good. I also just put some fresh raspberries and blueberries around those. I used the copper steel reusable water bottle here too. This time I filled it with cool water and popped in a wedge of fresh lemon. There's actually an infuser attached to the lid, which is great for loose tea if you want a hot drink to go, but I actually put some fresh mint in this to flavour the water throughout the day. It goes really nicely with the lemon and it just makes a lovely refreshing drink. Jazzes up your regular water a little bit, and as I previously mentioned, the bottle keeps your drink cold for up to 12 hours. Wraps are something else I love and often make for lunch. Again, they're so quick and easy to make, especially when reusing ingredients or leftovers from the day before. The combination of this flavourful satay sauce with the mint, coriander, spring onion and fried tofu salad is so delicious. The chickpeas just add in some more protein and really bulk out the wrap. Instead of the satay sauce though, you could just spread on some hummus, and you could also add in some cucumber to make it even more crunchy. Wednesday's lunch, or just a third idea, is a no mayo chickpea potato salad. For this, I placed a portion of leftover pre-boiled sliced new baby potatoes in a large bowl, and I also added in the remaining half a can of chickpeas left over from the day before. I then added 1 stick of thinly sliced celery, 2 thinly sliced radishes, 1 sliced spring onion, and a small handful of fresh chopped parsley. I made a creamy tahini dressing with 4 tablespoons of light tahini, 4 tablespoons of cold water, the juice of half a lemon, 2 tablespoons of maple syrup, 1 teaspoon of garlic granules, 1/4 teaspoon of sea salt, and a pinch of black pepper. I then mixed that together really well until it was nice and creamy and smooth. I then poured the creamy tahini dressing into the chickpea potato salad, and I just stirred it all through until it was really well combined and everything was nicely coated. I then added the chickpea potato salad to the main bento box. Then in the container from the second box, I put some vanilla soya yogurt, and in that I put some pieces of vegan dark chocolate, as well as some fresh raspberries and blueberries. Then in the other section, I put some spinach leaves, as well as a handful of coloured cherry tomatoes. I had a little bit of the dressing left which I'd saved, so I put that in a sauce cup to also go in the bento box as well. As much as I love vegan mayonnaise, I try my best not to have it on everything, and this creamy tahini dressing is a great healthier alternative. Adding the water to it just thins it out slightly, so it's more of a dressing consistency. The maple syrup sweetens it nicely, so it's not bitter at all, but it's still nice and tangy. As I said, I'd reserved some of the dressing to go in the sauce cup. I thought it was a good idea just to add some more before eating it to refresh it slightly, and it also worked as a nice dressing for the spinach too. I find potato salads quite filling, especially with the chickpeas in it too, so I decided to keep the rest of the lunch fairly light and simple. Thursday's lunch, or just a fourth idea, is a tofu spread veggie wrap. For this, I placed the other half of the tofu left over from Monday's lunch, which I had repressed, in a food processor along with 3 chopped sun-dried tomatoes, 1 sliced spring onion, 2 tablespoons of nutritional yeast, a tablespoon of fresh parsley, 2 tablespoons of lemon juice, a teaspoon of garlic granules, 1 teaspoon of onion granules, a teaspoon of apple cider vinegar, and a pinch of fine sea salt and a pinch of cracked black pepper. I then processed that until it formed a spread-like texture and looked a little something like this. I then took a whole wheat seeded wrap and I put the tofu spread on all over. I had then thinly sliced some cucumber as well as a couple of radishes, so I added those on next. I'd also sliced another spring onion, so I laid that on top too with a handful of fresh spinach. I then rolled it up, cut it in half, and the wrap looked like this. I placed that in the main bento box, again with some spinach just tucked in the sides. I still had some of that creamy tahini dressing left over from the day before, so I put that in a sauce cup and in the bento box with the wrap. In the other box, in one section, I put some of the sweet potato and red pepper crisps. Then in the small container in the middle, I put some smooth peanut butter. And then to the other side, I'd cut up a small apple, so I put some of those wedges in. To keep these from turning brown, you can squeeze some lemon juice on all over, and this actually works really well at keeping them fresh. I also then threw a few raspberries in at the end. I also took the copper steel insulated bottle here, and this time I filled it again with some cold water and placed in a wedge of lemon. But instead of adding in some fresh mint leaves to the infuser, this time I added in some sliced blueberries. Together with the lemon, this actually makes the water taste amazing, super refreshing, and you can really taste the blueberries in it. This is a good way to use up any leftover tofu, and a different way of using it too. It's kind of like a cream cheese alternative, and you could do any flavourings or add whatever you like into this. I love garlic and herb vegan cream cheeses, so you can make a great version of that done like this too. I prefer this, say, on a toasted bagel or something like that, but in the wrap it actually works really nicely with some crunchy veggies like the cucumber, radishes and spring onion like I did here. And you could have this in a sandwich, on anything toasted or on crackers. It would work really well used in many different ways. And then Friday's lunch, or just the final idea, is a creamy lemon hummus pasta. For this, I added half a cup of hummus to a mixing bowl. I then poured in 1/4 cup of some pasta water that I'd reserved. I then grated in the zest of 1/4 lemon, then squeezed in the juice from that piece of lemon. I also then added in a tablespoon of olive oil. And then I just mixed that all together until it became really smooth and creamy. I then added in a portion of leftover pre-cooked pasta from the night before. I just used rigatoni. And then again, I mixed that together well, all through the sauce, so that the pasta was well coated. Next, I tore in a large handful of fresh spinach. I then added in 4 chopped sun-dried tomatoes, a small handful of chopped fresh parsley, then a pinch of chili flakes and seasoned well with some sea salt and cracked black pepper. I then just mixed that together gently until it was all well combined and evenly turned through. I then placed the pasta in the main bento box, and then in the side section of the other bento box I just put some more spinach. I then added in some sliced cucumber, some chopped radishes and also some coloured cherry tomatoes. Then in the container I put some mixed berries, blackberries, raspberries and blueberries, and then I took some of these Livia's nuggets. These are the salted almond butter ones, and they're basically like little dough balls which are covered in chocolate and are incredible. I just placed those in with the mixed berries. I was never a fan of even just the thought of hummus pasta, but once I tried it, I couldn't believe how tasty it is. It's a combination that doesn't sound like it would work to me. I just thought it would be quite bland and boring. But with the lemon juice and the zest in this one, as well as the sun-dried tomatoes, parsley and chili flakes, there's so much flavour. You could also add in some toasted pine nuts, some fresh garlic to this, that's delicious as well. Instead of the parsley, you could use some fresh basil. You could also add in some peppers or jarred artichoke to this and make it in so many different ways, but don't knock it until you've tried it. And that's it for another school and work lunch ideas video. I really hope you have enjoyed this. All of the recipes are written in the description box below for you as always. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again soon. Bye!